And welcome back, everyone. It's time to talk more DND. Yes, I have been playing a heap, but this time I want to tell the story about how I got into Dungeons and Dragons. Now, this did happen rather recently, so it is a story that does hold some recent facts. Anyway, I did get into pen and paper when I was in school, but nothing really serious. A couple months of Shadowrun and Cyberpunk 20. What was it back then? 2020? Forgetting what it was now. Some ridiculous date that is getting really close. But nothing really stuck, and I stuck to gaming from then on. But recently, that itch, that tabletop itch, and that, urge to be creative in that kind of way has kind of taken over, and I have just consumed myself with Dungeons and Dragons and those sort of things. Now, I did eventually get into it with a real life game here where I live and that kind of thing, traveling to and from. And this has been going for 3 months now, but it has been a rather, let's say, turbulent process, and one that probably could have killed the interest in me, but if it wasn't for that being so, I just focused right now. Now, the story all starts with meeting with a group, as it does for that, day zero go, where you're figuring out your characters, doing all that kind of thing. And the group seemed reasonably okay. The session went okay, but over the next few weeks, those people just kept on leaving and coming and leaving, coming to the point where there was no idea when you were going to have a full group, if you were going to have a full group, or if someone was going to stick around. Now, I don't entirely blame those people for it. Well, some did have those, study, work, other thing, excuses, that kind of thing. But I think in the end, it came down to the premises it was happening in. Now, the house of the DM, who we go to every week, who we meet up with, stinks of animal piss. And I don't just mean, you walk in the door, you get a faint smell of something that's pissed or pooed or whatever. I mean, it's just baked into the house where you walk in, and it's like walking into, say, a cloud of toxic air where it just immediately hits you. Your nose starts wrinkling up and you just can't breathe properly, and you're trying to not smell at all. You're trying to breathe through your mouth the entire time you're there. And it was getting to the point where I was actually leaving those sessions quite ill, getting home and having to go to sleep because I just had migraines and nausea and all that kind of thing. And it got so bad where after a month of doing this, even traveling to that guy's house started making me feel nauseous. I would get seriously nauseous in the car, just imagining that I'm going to this piss house. It was disgusting. It was gross. And I have no idea how I pushed through that, because that kind of thing just is so beyond the norm that it's just incredible fortitude. I guess my constitution is rather high that I put up with it that long. Anyway, it did get better over time and even today, you still have those sessions you go over and it's just, oh, God damn it, this is the piss house again. They do try and clean up now, and I think it was to do with a certain rug that was right in the middle of the lounge room. And, well, they do have a few very old animals. 2 old dogs, 2 old cats. Very old, and maybe incontinent, that are pissing places where they shouldn't. But yes, the piss house. That's actually probably the best part of this story so far. Then we get down to Hentai Guy. Now, he wasn't around originally, but did come by later. And I guess the first cue, this guy wasn't going to be enjoyable to play with, was using, say, SJW as a negative term in many conversational aspects, bringing it up constantly about various things. And, well, whenever you hear that in an online forum, you kind of imagine a certain person, that fat otaku with the anime avatar that is never going to have any sort of sexual activity, is this fat, slobbish buffoon sitting in what amounts to his mother's basement. And, well, you picture that stereotype and, well, that is basically the person I'm playing with. this stinky, like, slobbish oath of a man that just constantly, fucking constantly brings up sexual innuendos and thoughts and comments, and oh my god. Recently, I think it was a few games ago now, he actually brought up something about a quote-unquote healing dildo. Now, an item that he made in another game that, you know, activates a certain thing upon a certain whatever happens. And that's what he was talking about. And the entire table is just, like, cringing like a shit, man. Like, do we say something? Do we just turn our head? You all just, like, try to ignore it as much as you could. But, like, that kind of stuff is just disgusting. And, like, no conversation happened for, like, 10 minutes afterwards. The other one was, of course, asking... he's just obsessed with anime, and you know the anime I'm talking about. He literally spent 10 minutes talking about the Slayer's anime and all the gods and all the characters and blah, 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 blah. Luckily, I missed most of it because I went to get food and come back, but I came to the tail end of it, and I think he was talking the entire time I was gone about this one anime. And, like, I know the anime he's talking about. I don't watch it because, frankly, even that art style and the whole presentation of it puts me off, but it is basically an anime around semi-nude women doing semi-nude things and poses that's completely and utterly sexual. Well, not overtly sexual as some do get, but more that blatant fan service style, and he's just obsessed with it. And then it goes into other animes he talks about where, like, he's just got to ask everyone a question. How many of these live action movies do you think are about this nudie anime? A literal nudie anime. And we're like, fuck dude, we don't want to know. And he's like, 16. And it's like, we know you've watched every single one of them multiple times, probably burning out whatever VHS tape they're on. But shit dude, we don't want to know these things. Like, it seriously makes my insides, like, shrivel up inside at the thought of even thinking about it. It's just, goddamn, guys, gross. Guys out there, stop that shit when you're playing with anyone. I don't even talk about any other girls. I'm talking about anyone. The shit is gross. Stop it. And then we get to the DM's sister, and while she's not playing with us, the problem is that she's very vocal. But not vocal in talking about the game, I'm talking vocal overall, like, alright, hold yourselves in for this one. She goes out to get food for the guy whose house it is, that kind of thing, comes back, she has the fast food, he has the fast food, she goes downstairs to her area, that kind of thing. And like, say 5 minutes, or maybe 10 minutes after finishing, you know that's happened, like, you start hearing this retching noise, like the sound a cat makes that's got a particularly large hairball in its throat. Downstairs, just constantly for about 30 minutes afterwards. And I literally timed it to about 30 minutes one time. I think it was like 24 minutes of this constant hacking and basically throwing up in a toilet downstairs. At least that's what it sounded like. And like, you're trying to talk about this D&D stuff, you're trying to, you know, have that conversation, the DM's trying to talk what's happening, set the mood, that kind of thing. And in the background of all that is this noise constantly. It is the most distractingly terrible shit you've ever heard in your life. It makes it so awkward in that house. You don't know what to say. It's like, do you know what's happening down there? Are you going to talk to her eventually? And I'm not even talking, this is one game. I'm literally talking at least maybe half the times I've been there, that shit has gone on in the background. And then lately it's just been this gigantic pot smell that comes up after that sort of retching time, and then the coughing begins afterwards again. And I'm not talking like, oh yeah, I can smell a little bit of weed, man. I'm talking about like the house just becomes this pot palace. Like, you roll down the window in Cheech and Chong's car, and that's the smell you get from this house now. Now, I have been there before, like, I have been that young sort of person, but come on, like, you don't do it when other people come over to your house that you don't know. Like, there's a sort of like decorum there with smoking pot, I guess, and like that breaches that. And then there's other things that are a bit more too personal to talk about that I won't go into on a YouTube video that are just as off-putting. as the rest of it. And my God, that is the first ever group I've played with for D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. Well, it's a Pathfinder game, so 3.5 kind of thing. But yeah, as you can imagine, that is not getting off to the greatest of starts with the hobby. Luckily, I have my own games that I do DM online, and those are going amazing so far. So it's not entirely a negative experience, but yes. So take care, everyone. That's my D&D story for now, and I will see you next time.